Good evening. We've just gone 7 o'clock, and it's that time of the night again, or that time of the week again. It's the Friday night football pitch with myself, Cammy McDonald, co-host Dennis Newell, and tonight we're joined by Breeze FM presenter John O'Brien. And this week we'll be discussing, as always, just what's been happening in the week of football: Scottish football, English football, how British clubs have been faring in Europe. We'll have a wee look at the League Cup. And I might well have a wee rant tonight. I think I'm going to take over Dennis's slot about having a rant. I've got something in mind, and I'm quite sure the other two will have their thoughts on it as well. But we'll come back to that one later on in the show. Dennis, good evening. How are we doing?
Good evening, Cammy. I'm doing fine, thanks. Yourself?
Not bad at all. Not bad at all. It's been a busy week as always. But what do you expect in the Parcels game? John, good evening to you. Thanks very much for joining us.
It's a pleasure. A pleasure.
Good evening, John.
First time we've obviously spoke on the show, but obviously we know you from, or you're known from Breeze FM through in Hamilton. You were working alongside a guest of ours a few weeks ago, Ian Preston.
That's correct, and it was also my neighbour at one point in time.
We'll not tell anybody that one.
Long since moved on, a couple of years at least, several years.
No, but I think he's down in Ayrshire now. But anyway, we'll not be giving any more details about where he is. Dennis, one heck of a week in football this week. European football again. Mixed fortunes this week for British clubs. Mixed fortunes, obviously, for Scottish clubs as well. 1 win, 1 draw, 1 defeat for the Scottish clubs. English clubs haven't fared particularly much better, actually, either. Shock defeats for Manchester City and Arsenal. But how many of the games did you catch? I've caught most of the highlights, but I know obviously somebody like yourself who's up a wee bit later than me tends to catch the games more often than I do.
Yeah, I've caught a few of the games, Cammy, but again, a saturation point, isn't it? You know, chopping, changing all the time, the buttons to try and watch the games. And yeah, but you mentioned there as if Scotland had done badly this week. I thought we'd done well, with the exception of maybe Hearts throwing it away.
No, that's what I'm saying. Mixed fortunes, I think, rather than anything else. Yeah.
Celtic's result was outstanding, and I watched that from start to finish. Absolutely brilliant. Leipzig hadn't won a game, and I mentioned that last week in the 3 matches previous. But I think, and I haven't looked at it, I think they were sitting second in the Bundesliga.
They're sitting second in the Bundesliga, yeah.
Yeah, and to actually beat them, I think they've came to Scotland before Leipzig, and they've actually done very, very well against Scottish teams. So for Celtic to actually play the way they did, I mean, it was entertaining. It was almost as good, and I raved about the Aberdeen game, Celtic and Aberdeen. It was almost as good as that. Leipzig, just a shadow of what I expected, but I think that's down to Celtic. Their work rate was outstanding. It really was. And you know, I'm easy in the first to criticise poor games, poor performances, but Celtic were outstanding on Tuesday night, and you've got to applaud them. And that's what we keep saying. We want to be entertained, whether it's Celtic, Rangers, Hearts, could be Albion Rovers, for whatever we want to talk about. If you get entertained in a football match, it was great. So well done to Celtic. They actually deserved their win.
Yeah.
I don't know what bits of it you've seen, John or Cammy.
I've saw bits of them. I've obviously saw the sort of highlight slot on YouTube, but what I saw certainly impressed me, John. And it is good to see. Let's be fair, Celtic are doing very, very well in the Champions League. Dortmund result apart, Celtic certainly are faring very well in the Champions League.
I think I'm enjoying it because of the fact that the format is so much better. See, for the last 5-6 seasons, you know, you had pot 1, pot 2, pot 3, pot 4 teams, and nearly all the time, pots 1 and 2 finished first and second. And nearly all the time, teams at pot 1 and 2 would always, you know, have a hard game against each other. This time, just by throwing the dice, so to speak, you're getting all sorts, a mixture of games. You know, Real Madrid aren't getting 100% record. And this is great because of the fact that Celtic and Rangers, to have 7 points out of a possible 12 is fantastic bit of play. You know, and the results that they're getting, especially Rangers, which you can come on to in due course, but it's really been outstanding. Hearts surprised me because I'd never even heard of that German team, I must be honest. So I don't know how far down the German league they are, but the big boy, what's his name? Centre forward for Hearts. He blamed himself for missing too many chances.
Shankland missed quite
Shankland, but I just think he has an absolutely lousy season, and it comes down to not having your head in the right place. And Hearts are suffering as a result, which is a shame because he could have had the best final season ever. And I don't really know whether or not the Rangers move might take place, but I digress a little there. But I'm loving the format. It's right. Great, and it's going to go all the way. You look at some of the teams in no points, and it's a really big surprise.
If you look at the big guns in that league are incredible. When you look at Liverpool, the teams you would expect, maybe Sporting, not so much, Monaco, Brest, they're in the top 5, and then you've Aston Villa, who's dropped away a bit. But you look at the teams that are actually below Celtic and you say to yourself, tell you what, absolutely magnificent. You've got Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, Benfica, AC Milan, Bruges, Atletico Madrid, PSG.
Yeah.
You're going on and on. They're all sitting there with less points than Celtic. And that is where the point I've made a few weeks now is, if you play the old system, 4 teams, and as you rightly say, you normally find 1 and 2 go up and the other 2 are getting scraps. And the thing about it is, I look at these fixtures and I go, there's games there that's worth going to see. Once the league in the old format is presented, you're stuck with it. Home and away, and there's teams on that you generally maybe don't like or don't want to go and see. Whereas this format we've got now, I mean, you've got 8 games that take you past the new year, and there's always going to be something in each one of these games. Whereas I just felt it was thrown at you. 2 teams were going to go through. It was normally the big guns, and third and fourth were just fighting for scraps. And you generally found that was the Scottish teams were doing that. Now that we're still in a level playing field, but we're doing well.
Do you not think it was need of a revamp though? Because what annoys me greatly is that you've got 4 teams from 4 countries. They might kick up a stink if one of their, they fall out of the coefficient or whatever, and just say, this is not what we bought into, because there was the big worry about the European League, and they had to counter that with something that, was watchable. And I think they're getting excellent viewing figures for it too, I believe.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. The viewing figures must be outstanding, because there is such an interest in all clubs across Europe. So the viewing figures aren't all countries across Europe. Sorry, so the viewing figures aren't only be great in the UK. You're looking at likes of Germany, you're looking at France, but some of the smaller markets, but the clubs are going to have interest as well. We've got Red Star Belgrade, you've got Slovan Bratislava. You've got a lot of clubs there spread out across every country, so the viewing figures in every country must be outstanding, and it is a really, really good watch.
The thing I'm looking for, the thing I'm looking forward to is that, and maybe you gentlemen can help me out here, the games, Man United versus Rangers, although it might be the other way about, I can't remember, Tottenham versus Rangers and Celtic versus Villa. I tend to think that the Scottish teams do really well in the Anglo-Scottish match, or whatever title it's usually given. And yet they've been written off all the way to these 2 teams play our main English sides. And I don't think there's any guarantee there'll be 3 wins for the English teams there.
Oh, I definitely agree on that one.
I think there's an element there where when you look at the 2, we're a poor man's Europe when you look at the spending power in relation to what England will spend in one player. We've probably got Celtic and Rangers both not able to buy, or their whole team will be bordering around what one of the big boys have spent. And I think that's where the gulf is, and that's where you get attracted to the fact that we can't compete against them. But you've got to have that belief. And I would like to think that both Rangers and Celtic could have a go at Manchester United right at this moment in time, get something out of the game. Tottenham have their ups and downs as well. So, there's another team. Aston Villa, I think they're punching above their weight. And certainly, I was going to touch on that game last night anyway, which I don't know if you've seen Mings.
we need to touch on Tyrone Mings.
Well, just drifting away from what John's asked there, I think that, yeah, we will have a chance against the English opposition, but I don't think it's much different for the playing Borussia Dortmund or something like that, to be honest, or Arsenal maybe coming up against Celtic or Rangers at some point. The thing is, they're all going to be good games. You're not finding there that you're going to be playing somebody that you've never heard of before. You know, young boys have never been an attractive team to me. I would rather the Old Firm were playing against some English team than playing against teams that you think, well, you know, we're scrapping about here to try and get 3 points just to make us look good. I want a good, entertaining match, and I'd rather see that against the English clubs. Mm-hmm. And then when you touch on Aston Villa, I watched the first half of that last night, and I thought Aston Villa struggled, and then I know their common denominator, and it's Mings. I didn't see the goal until today, and I honestly felt that he must have been involved at some point just when I seen the result. He's only back, I think, 444 days. He was out injured with a knee problem. And then
it went to his head.
Well, he starts about as if he's a world beater, and I've never been a fan of him because he's got a poor attitude and he believes more about the fact that he's a better player than what he actually is. How he ever made the England team, yeah. So that is what they need to watch in Aston Villa, because if they persist with playing him, I'm not talking about last night's mistake. I think that was just, I don't know, maybe he was being cocky and just thinking he can do what he wants. But if anybody hasn't seen it, the goalkeeper took what was apparently a by kick, we'll call it a by kick, and he knocked it just to the left to Mings. Mings leant down, picked the ball up and put it back to the spot. And then the referee thought, what have you just done? That's a penalty.
And the fact you had to refer it to VAR, that's what done me, you know. It's this is just I think the referee's obviously in a state of disbelief. So I can't believe he's done that. I better double check that I'm not making an arse of this, you know, and that I've genuinely seen it, you know. And true enough, he wasn't the only one in the ground that saw it. It was a genuine penalty. I mean, it's the look on everybody's faces, you know. It's his goalkeeper giving it, what the hell have you just done, you know? John McGinn going to the referee, oh no, he couldn't have done that, you know. That's no hat. And sure enough, you know, it was a stick-on penalty. It's a moment of madness by Tyrone Mings. Sorry?
That's a valuable 3 points he cost them last night.
Well, he did. It's definitely a point he's cost them anyway, you know, because I mean, Villa could be sitting, they could be sitting a couple of spots above where they are, you know, certainly above Barcelona and Dortmund, but behind like Inter Milan, who have played 4 games. They've only scored 6 goals, but they haven't lost a goal, you know. So, and I mean that was obviously the first goal that Villa have lost in the competition this year as well. You know, for you saying, Dennis, that they're punching above their weight, and I think nothing could be further for the truth. Aston Villa have been an outstanding side in the Champions League this season, getting some absolutely fantastic results, outstanding at the back, but that was just a moment of madness. And why Tyrone Mings has been brought back into that side to disrupt what has been a winning formula is one of the manager's first mistakes, I think.
Yeah. Well, this time last week, they were at the top of the league. They've now dropped down to 8th. They're right in the border of being the automatic situation. I know it's still got a long way to go, but the bottom line is they've dropped down to 8th spot and through that simple error. And again, it is back to why did they play him in the first place? Yeah.
I'll tell you who would be concerned. Who might be concerned by that, because Celtic had Villa for their last game.
Yes.
Now all of a sudden it's going to mean something for them, I would suspect. You'll know, you're looking at the tables there, Dennis, whether or not what kind of points totals do you think is getting you across the line?
Well, you've got 8 games, and you could say 8th spot with Aston Villa at this moment in time is 9 points. So let's just round it up.
I think you're going to need 18 points to qualify.
Well, if you round it up and say 10 points, and you're sitting in 8th, that's the cut-off point, right? You've got the same again, which would be another 10 points. So if you were to look at that top 8 and say 10 was for your first 4, another 4 games is another 10 points. I would say Cammie's just about right. I think you're going to need, I would maybe even say you need that 20 points because of the big hitters that are below you.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
To finish top 8, is that?
I think 18 to 19 points will get you top 8.
Yeah.
Looking at it just now, because you've got to consider, Dennis, I know what you're saying about the big hitters, but I mean, you've got Real Madrid just now who've only got 6 points.
Mm-hmm.
So assuming that Real Madrid win their remaining 4 games, that's going to give them 18 points.
Mm-hmm.
Benfica's the same, Bayern Munich's the same. I mean, look at some of these big sides, as you say, who are below Celtic. So for them, they're going to have to win every remaining match. I mean, you're looking at Atletico Madrid, they're down in 23rd with 2 wins, two defeats, and they're only sitting at 6 points. PSG are already beyond the 18 points. So I think if you're looking at that top 8 and automatic qualification, you're going to need a minimum. I think you're going to need 18 points to get through, and then it'll maybe come down to goal difference or however they're going to work it, games against the sides around you or whatever, however the qualification is going to be decided when sides are equal in points and whatnot, But looking at the Champions League, I definitely think 18 points is going to be what you're going to have to get to qualify automatically. And then for 9th to 16th, I don't know where that'll be in terms of points total, but I don't imagine it'll be many points less than 18 either, to be honest with you.
Well, it goes from 9 to 24. That's your playoffs.
I'm saying 26, 9 to 24.
And then obviously, I think Celtic could be good enough to be in there, but then that's always the problem. They just need to slip a little bit. I think also, though, you're right in what you say, Cammy. The thing I think is going to be very important as well is, and I think Tottenham just jumped to another league, played a couple of youngsters, I think, or just took their foot off the gas when they were playing last night and got beat. I think goal difference is going to play a massive part in these fixtures because there's so many are going to be sitting on the same points. So you could find that there's maybe 5 or 6 as your cut-off point is right, Cammy, 18. You might have 5 or 6 sitting on 18 points.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, it's something that's attractive to look at and digest and go into it when we didn't have that before. That's a good thing.
Absolutely, because you had, after about 4 games in a section, if a team had 12 points, they'd qualified.
Yes.
It just, that's what made it boring. So they had dead rubbers to play. And that's
I think that's the one thing with this, John. It's going to completely eliminate dead rubbers. You're saying that Aston Villa and Celtic, that's their last game in this group stage, or league stage. That's going to be a live game, irrespective whether Villa had won, lost, or ultimately drawn on Wednesday night. That was going. You're not going to have a dead rubber at game 8. And I think that's going to be the big thing. And as you were saying, Dennis, depending what is going to decide who qualifies, if it does come down to equal points, whether it's going to be goals for, goal difference, games against other sides on equal points, if that happens, however they're going to break it down, goal difference or something is going to be.
Sorry. Do you fancy John McGinn for an own goal against Celtic then?
No.
He will try, will he? Will he do an Andy Halliday and not celebrate?
No, I think McGinn's revered at Aston Villa, John. So I think he will do his damnedest to make sure they're through and they qualify. For definite. But I mean, just getting back to Dennis, what you were saying earlier on about the Spurs game, they were resoundingly gubbed. I know that finished 3-2, but if you've seen any of that game, Galatasaray absolutely ran over the top of a Spurs side who were very, very disappointing, finishing the game with 10 men. That's their first, obviously, drop points of this competition as well. But I mean, Galatasaray are the second top scorers in that Europa League, 12 goals, and last night they certainly did themselves no harm with an outstanding home victory over Spurs.
Yeah, well, they're sitting third in the league, Galatasaray, and Tottenham not done a lot of damage. They've dropped to 7th spot. But it certainly could have seen them up at the top if they hadn't lost the plot with that one. And I think it's games like that the likes of Tottenham have really got to understand that you don't want to be in the playoffs. You want to be making sure that you're qualified in that top 8 because of the size of the club that you are. And I think he's just taking his eye off the ball with that one just a little bit.
Who were Spurs scheduled to meet at the weekend? Was it pre-planning?
You mean this Saturday?
Aye. Who did they play? Did they have one of the top lot?
They've got
they would rest so
Ipswich.
many players. Ipswich.
No, they've got Ipswich on Sunday.
Oh, I don't understand that then.
Yeah,
because it was a young boy that got sent off, wasn't it?
Yeah, he just scored. But no, as I say, that Spurs, I definitely think that was a slip up for them last night. As I say, they were resoundly gubbed. I know 3-2, I think definitely flattered them because their keeper kept them in the game. A couple of defensive goal line clearances and things like that as well, But Spurs were resoundly beaten. But let's obviously discuss the Scottish sides, Dennis. Celtic we've already touched on. An exceptional victory at home to RB Leipzig on Tuesday evening. Yeah. Rangers last night, I think going to Greece and getting a 1-1 draw, I think that's a fantastic result as well for the Ibrox side. Hearts a little unfortunate. They did really well in the first half, just lost a couple of silly goals in the second against Heidenheim, obviously in the German Bundesliga. They're sitting 12th in the Bundesliga, so they're not a bad side, Dennis. But not quite as good as obviously the likes of RB Leipzig or indeed Borussia Dortmund have been in Europe this year.
Well, obviously you've got two different leagues there. One's the Europa League and one's the Conference League. So it's like everything else. It's like divisions. You're going down, and I wouldn't say, that there's Tottenham in the Europa League. You'd look at them potentially of being a Champions League team, and there's others in that league. Just looking at Rangers there, the draw was excellent. Again, watched that match. I don't know if either of you did.
Again, I've caught some of it. Your man Dessers, again, a massive disappointment in front of goals.
But see, this is what I can't explain to me, please. I used to hear stories of McCoist or even Boyd when they played with Rangers. The reason they score so many is that they miss so many. Now, he's getting harassed because he misses a lot. Don't get me wrong. Maybe he misses a lot that in big games, but I think sometimes I don't know what the Rangers fans are wishing for, because when they're successful, they are very lukewarm to the reasoning. I mean, that's 6. I just looked at a statistic there. That's the first time since I think it was Neil Lennon's group of players or whatever went 6 away teams in a European competition without a defeat. And the Belgian boy has done it. So, I mean, what they're looking for, I don't know.
You must be the only person I've spoke to on this planet that actually thinks Rangers are on a good roll.
No, and I'm talking about
when you're talking about him and McCoist.
No, I'm not saying
McCoist's boots in relation
of course
to.
He couldn't. But he's got to, in the current, how many chances is it? He's missing a lot of chances. I'm not coming anywhere close to Ali McCoist, of course not. But how come? I mean, when are you going to give the guy a break? I just think he's going to go, and all of a sudden goals will stop, maybe dry up. I mean, even I saw a player there, and he scored the last few times I've seen 20 score. Was that Sam Lammers? Now, everybody was saying he was a dud, didn't they?
Yeah.
And he's away now. He's scoring goals in Europe. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't watch them every week. But I think they're under so much pressure that they actually play better away from home than they do. They do, because there's not the stress. There's a greater stress when you look at it. You
see,
know,
they're certainly getting better.
When you play with the Old Firm, there's expectations away beyond belief, whether it's Hamilton Accies, Airdrie, or anywhere down that, and you'll be aware of that. But when you look at the amount of chances that this boy is missing, he missed 3 other glaring chances last night in that match. And I mean, 1-on-1 with the goalkeeper and still can't finish. You get people in the lower divisions, you'll get somebody in a pub team that can beat the goalkeeper with a 1-on-1. At 27 grand a week, he could have finished and wrapped that game up for Rangers by half time. Okay. Instead of that, his team are under pressure, right? And we say, what a great draw. Yeah, no, that should have been out of sight at half time. If your centre forward who's paid to do that particular job does his job, if your defenders miss the chances of slipping in and missing tackles, they would be off the park. If the say Suter goes in and he makes 4 rash challenges, he's off the park and he'll not be playing again. Dessers seems to get away with that at the other end of the park, and it's not acceptable. And then we'll go back to Sunday. Sunday's game, Rangers in the League Cup looked as world beaters again. They weren't world beaters. Motherwell gave them a right good shout in relation to it could have went either way. I think though Rangers just had that bit extra, but their goal that Dessers got was a deflection off the defender. He hits it towards goals, it hits the defender's leg, spins up over the goalkeeper, and it's in the back of the net. And then they're raving about Dessers scoring a goal. Now he's taking his chance. But when I look at a player of that level going through a goalkeeper 1-on-1, or he's at the edge of the 6-yard box, and instead of sticking it in the corner, with a ball that comes in lovely for him, he hits the goalkeeper with it without expanding in the other errors he's got. So you do have chances extra when you're playing with Rangers or Celtic. And you do have that where you said about Chris Boyd and Ali McCoist. Yeah, they miss chances. But you can't have as many chances missed with a poor Rangers team at this moment in time. He's needed. There's the point I'm trying to make. He's needed. Whereas with McCoist and Boyd, as 2 examples, they were getting chances, but other people were chipping in. It's not happening in that Rangers team. And I feel for them because, see, while they're winning games, then they have to cash in. They have to cash in and start entertaining. Because I'm getting to the stage now where I'm watching Rangers, and it's a hard watch. It really is. It's a hard watch. And then, and without favouring another side in Glasgow, I look at the Celtic matches, and some of it's quite refreshing. Now, it must be frustrating for Rangers supporters, but I'm looking at it not as a critic. I'm looking at it to see where the flaws are that this manager is not rectifying, and he's not doing it. I mean, last night, how can you make your captain third choice to go in the park? He starts off with the boy Sterling, then he changes it and takes Sterling off early doors, and he doesn't put Tavernier in his place. He puts another boy on, and then later on in the game, he puts Tavernier on. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, I'm the club captain here. How am I third choice? And then they talk about, he's just getting rested. I'm sorry. You having to get time to rest at Ibrox. You've got to go all guns blazing, and you run until you're falling.
Yeah. Okay. That said, it's still a great result to go to Greece and get a 1-each draw. Let's be fair, we cannot take anything away from that result. Dessers could have done more, I think, in front of goal.
Yeah.
But to go to Greece, I'm quite sure every Rangers fan would have taken a point before that game started. So, fair play to them to go there and get that result. As I say, Hearts were somewhat unfortunate last night, I think, John. They did very, very well in the first half. It just got away from them in the second half a wee bit. And Heidenheim are a decent side. As I say, they've fallen off a wee bit at home this year. You're looking at a side who finished top 6 in the Bundesliga last year. It's still a very, very strong league, despite obviously Celtic beating RB Leipzig. We only need to look at the results that German sides have had the rest of this season. So it's still a very strong league. So 12th side in the Bundesliga, it's no disgrace for Hearts to get beaten at home against them, but just very unfortunate, I think.
But let me make a right when you seen Shanklin there. His chances were as glaring as Dessers.
Yeah, as good as Dessers,
Right. And you think to yourself, you're right, that boy should be, and I said this way back weeks ago, he should be down south earning about £50,000 a week. Instead of that, he's scratching about here in the ground trying to get a goal with Hearts. Hearts in the first half, again, watched that. I thought they were excellent. I actually thought they were really, really good. And I think that, in fact, my statement to myself last night was, I don't know if it was after the first gin or the second gin, but I did say, I reckon they can get in the top 6 or even end up 5th. That's how good I was impressed with them in the first half.
They did have a good start. There is the interest I have in the Conference League is from an early perspective. That is Larne disappointingly are bottom of that. Because they have 2 ex-Airdrie players playing with them, Rohan Ferguson and Andy Ryan playing for them.
Right.
You know, so that's my interest. And the other interest I have is that last season we beat the New Saints, and they're getting something like £1 million or euros or whatever for being in this league. And last season, you should see the players they're actually pulling to play in the Welsh League, which they run away and win. Yeah. Now they play in Europe nearly every year.
I saw the crowd last night in that game, you know, against the Irish side, you know. So I saw the crowd there last night, and I mean that was some crowd for a game between a Welsh side and a League of Ireland side.
You know, Shamrock Rovers are doing exceptionally well. The 3 games they've had, they've won the last 2 and drew the first one, so they're sitting in 7th spot in that league. But there are some teams there that you think, wait a minute, this Conference League is really open to everyone. You know, you look at the Airdries and the Hamiltons and teams like that. It would be great if we could see some of the Scottish teams in the way that New Saints are and stuff. I don't think we'll ever get to that because obviously it's the merit in what these leagues are. But really, there's that's a great league there for teams like the ones I've just mentioned to get in and play. Yeah.
Anyway, would you be able to have this length of conversation around last season's Champions League?
No, definitely not. Great point. Great point, John. I think absolutely fantastic point. Yeah, well,
we done that last week as well. Time ran away with us, and before we knew who we were, and that was just Cammy and myself. We had covered that much of this, and I'm thinking, how long can you go on talking about the Champions League and the other two? I mean, there's a lot of value in it, though. There is a lot.
Yes, a lot of interest.
So that almost seamlessly, John, takes me on to what I hinted at earlier on. I think I'm going to chuck my rant in here, Dennis, because we're talking about the Champions League, and we're talking about obviously Scottish football and English football and everything else. And I think you and I briefly touched on this a number of weeks ago. I'm going to preface this and very, very simply, why the bloody hell every month of the season are we having an international break? Because we are breaking up the flow of our club football, which to me is the most important thing. You know, we are stopping it not only for our Premier clubs, you know, in the Premier League, but also it's coming down further down the leagues to likes of my own club, to your club, John, you know, to Airdrie. Yeah. You'll be taking a breather for this international break, which we've got coming up again next week. You know, we stop in terms of what we do in the European football, we stop in terms of what we do in domestic football, and it's all for the sake of I'm going to say, of a piss poor competition that is this damn Europa League. You know, for the international European Nations League. Sorry, and I really, it is starting to frustrate me that we are losing games month in, month out, domestically and again in the Champions League and the Europa League and that Conference League. And clubs are losing players. Valuable players, valuable commodities to a piss poor competition, Dennis.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and I've sided with you in previous weeks when we brought this up. In fact, I think it was me that actually asked the question to yourself why the games were not getting played on a Saturday when I looked at the fixture.
For the lower league clubs.
That's right.
You know, I understand why it's not happening for the Premier League clubs or for English Premiership clubs, but even for them, you know, these clubs are losing. The season is getting staggered for so many international games. You know, and it's not just once every 3 or 4 months now. It is becoming a monthly event that we are having an international break at some point within that month. Yeah. And clubs are losing finances. They're losing obviously players. Players are getting a break from obviously working with their teammates to go into the international scene for 7 or 10 days. And it's absolute nonsense that we're doing this for a competition that just shouldn't be ranked at all.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts, John?
Sorry.
You're always going to have the club v country argument. I don't know if it's FIFA related or UEFA related and arguing the points. They wanted to create and get rid of these so-called friendlies and camps, etc. So they've come up with the Nations League. And don't get me wrong, for two tournaments, it worked well for us. Now when we're getting hammered and we're in the grade A leagues or top nations, we're getting thumped, and there's no surprise in that. really. We're getting bigger games, etc. But
nobody wants to watch the telly.
No, well, they've changed the whole. I mean, I see that American football behind you there, and the fact of the matter is, see, football nowadays, you can't go to your bed for the fact that there's football on at some point in time and every day of the week, and this is to fill it in, and they're never ever going to change it, I don't think. But once they've started something, it's a poor show. What they have done, I listened to yours or Dennis's point about the not small clubs not playing on the Saturday. Each weekend, what they had done, and I'm not sure what's happening on Saturday because they're just playing Falkirk on Saturday. Although that's maybe the next week. But
it's a weekend Saturday.
Right,
John.
They've used the Challenge Cup games to be played for that, so we're out of that. So it's a question of just filling those weekends with that. But it's crazy. But this is what international managers used to complain there were never enough camps. But the biggest thing for me is the amount of times that players, don't turn up and don't see it as a viable exit because of the fact, they'll retire early from the big. Apart from Ronaldo, who wants to break a world record and score 5 zillion goals. So.
But I mean, that's the thing, Dennis. I know our point of view initially was for the fact that the clubs in the lower leagues are also taking this international break when they don't have any players. But as I say, it must be extremely frustrating as a club manager. It's certainly frustrating as a guy who wants to go and watch games. That once every 3 or 4 weeks, you're having this break from the domestic scene, now from the Champions League scene, to basically make space for a competition that you can't get televised because the TV companies are not interested in showing it, and it's an absolute bloody disgrace.
I think it's shocking, the whole infrastructure of this. We have just praised the way the Champions League, etc., has been organised and restructured, and it looks as if we went 5 steps forward and 10 back with this Mickey Mouse Nations League. I don't think it lends itself to anything. Seriously, I would rather we scrapped it and done away with it. And somebody will go, well, what do we go for there? No, you reinvent it the way we've done the Champions League. If you look at it, it's September, October, and November that has eaten into at least one weekend in the 3 months for the Scotland team to be playing. That doesn't allow teams that are maybe we'll take Clyde as an example. Right, I think you drew last week anyway. So let's assume last week you had won, and you went in a really terrible run at the start of the season, and you go out and you're even the draw, you might have picked something up there and go, wow, now I can't wait till next week's game. You can forget it. You've no game next week.
No,
so
that's it.
The adrenaline, the momentum, and everything you got for that victory is going down the toilet. Then somebody that's had a bad game or a bad result, they've got a week to go and work on their weaknesses because there's nothing there. So it's flawed. And it's people at the top of our game that don't actually see it. And another valid point as well is it's a nonsense. You can look at women's football. You can look at English football. There's saturation on the TV. Where do we find a Scotland team? Buried somewhere in the back of beyond that you've got to pay for to watch your own national team. Shocking. The BBC should be covering that no matter what it costs because you pay for a licence for this. And it's our national team instead of getting stuffed it down our throat some English ladies team. And I don't have that. I really get annoyed with it. So my rant backs up yours, Cammy. And I think these fat cats that go and travel to Germany, Switzerland, Hungary need to get a look at themselves because the game is not run for them. It is run for the ordinary guy in the street that wants to watch the national team playing.
Yep, exactly.
It tells you everything. It tells you everything that the New England boss isn't bothering to go to see his team.
By the way,
the game's don't mean that much.
John, he'll not be there that long. He'll get found out in the first 6 months.
Well,
oh Christ, aye, definitely.
But the importance of the games is not a lot, shall we say? So.
No, that's the thing. What we're stopping. What could be a great season in Europe by the looks of things, certainly and I mean, let's be fair, it's no the SFA's fault that we're having international breaks every bloody week of the season, it seems,
Right.
But it is certainly their fault that you're not getting to go and watch a lower league club. And this was always a time where you could get to, clubs like Clyde, clubs like Airdrie, John, could maybe look at hopefully increasing their gate by maybe 100 or 200 guys at the weekend, because Celtic wouldn't have a game, or Rangers wouldn't have a game, or Aberdeen or whoever wouldn't have a game because they had players representing their country at international level. But for these clubs now, they're not even gaining any extra revenue, by maybe drawing in some other fans who are wanting to go to a game of football domestically and don't want to watch an international side, or don't want, as Dennis says, to pay a tenner to watch absolute garbage on the telly, So it's totally flawed in terms of the fact that we've got the lower league clubs having to take the international break as well. But the fact that we have so many international breaks throughout a season definitely is very, very frustrating. And as I say, it's leading to, I think, a breakup and no fluidity in terms of our league clubs.
But I think anyway, as well, though, that, you look at it, Portugal, not the worst place in the world to go and watch the game. Then we're at home to Poland. Then you look at it again and you've got Croatia. Okay, if the weather's right, you don't mind so much.
Croatia's lovely, yeah.
Aye. And then you look at it and you've got Poland, which we've got coming up in a week Monday. So they're no bad places, right? But let's be serious about it. When you look at the previous tournament, Germany, Switzerland and Hungary, then you look at it and you go, there's a lot of travel in there for these people. Supporters, you've got to then engage them as well and say, how much money can they afford to spend visiting these countries with games that I don't think are of great value to other than a trip away. I just can't get it. I can't. It doesn't do much for me. And then I look at the squad. There's nothing appetizing about that as well. I don't know if you get a chance to look at the squad.
No. As I say, I'm at a stage now where I couldn't give two stuffs about what's happening internationally, because it is very, very depressing, I think, very frustrating. And again, it is taken away from our bread and butter games. But on that subject, Dennis, of bread and butter, let's get back to people didn't tune in. Well, maybe they did tune in to listen to us have a rant. But as I say, anybody who's watching this and listening to this,
it's not a rant. No.
They're definitely stating a fact.
You know who you should address your rant to, and it might bring a sea of change, and it did because of the summer tournaments. Footballers, they are slowly saying, "Hold on a wee minute here. Now you're in the best position, Dennis, to say how many players, this nonsense that people should say, players should be able to play Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday."
Not at all.
But I mean, what is a reasonable amount of games to play? And I think the players, especially those at the highest level, they will have a major say and impact.
Well, if we look back at last weekend's game, it highlights exactly what you're saying, John. We had this discussion on what we thought the Celtic result would be, right? And the thing that was brought up was Aberdeen run Celtic very close when they played them in the league. And my statement was Celtic will score a right few goals, or worse to that.
You did say that. Yeah, you said it was going to be a very, very comfortable victory.
Correct. And it ended up that way. And what I didn't really notice was a lot of people giving the excuse other than the fact that Celtic were on top. Celtic played the game before, the match before they went into Aberdeen, and they left out 4 players against Dundee. They struggled a little bit, but they got through the game and they won it, right? Aberdeen played a really tough tie in midweek against Rangers. And I looked at that and I went, well, I'll tell you what, work it out. Would I like that if I was a manager?
Absolutely.
Nothing's further for the truth. I'm playing a Wednesday night. My players are exhausted because they couldn't have given any more. And the players I've got coming in are either maybe not going to be my first team choice for the actual Saturday game against Celtic. And secondly, they'll be inexperienced as well. So you're left there, we almost started anyway, the same team you'd done on Wednesday, exhausted. Yeah. Wednesday night, because of the result, you had to pull them off the ceiling about 2:00 in the morning with the adrenaline still pumping after a magnificent result against Rangers. They then have a poor sleep. They're then up on the Thursday. Now, whether they've done light training or not is neither here nor there. They're then still having to get themselves together to probably come down to Glasgow on the Friday. Very little will get worked on or trained on the Friday. And then there you are. You're into the semi-final on the Saturday. So it all stacks up against you when Celtic then go, right, okay, we've done our job during the week. We rested 4 of them. And the big guns come, right, we're buzzing. Let's just take the game to them. And that's how Aberdeen collapsed. It wasn't that Aberdeen are a bad team. They just run out of puff.
I think that the Aberdeen, it's the first time they've had 2 difficult matches back-to-back, midweek and weekend, whereas Celtic, Rangers, the other clubs, St Mirren, Kilmarnock, they all, I'm not saying Celtic and Rangers, would win both games, or maybe Rangers haven't, but there's always been a lull in the follow-up game. It's been difficult. Kilmarnock were down the bottom end because of playing European football and then league games on the Saturday. St Mirren as well, they're starting to recover. And Hearts, you might see a kick on, a knockback, given getting beat, given their loss. Hearts could have an impact similarly, but that's through playing in Europe. Aberdeen, though, had been very lucky, finishing bottom 6. They had 3 Wednesdays, all these 3 Wednesdays, prepare for their Saturday games. And that was the first time, really, they had a big game. They might have had a Wednesday game against a lesser light or whatever, but
I think it was Rangers.
Celtic, if it'd been either Celtic and Rangers or Rangers then Celtic, you would have seen an impact. But you're right.
I just felt that there was too much looked upon as Celtic being absolutely outstanding. They were, and Aberdeen sort of getting found out. They were only found out through fitness in my eyes. I think if they had maybe another 2 or 3 days break to gather themselves together, absorb what the Rangers game meant to the Aberdeen supporters after all the years have struggled, and then put themselves together and say, I'll tell you what, right, let's go and have a go at Celtic. I just thought, turning up here, getting something out of this game, it just didn't happen. But
you playing into the hands of the northern conspiracy theorists, Dennis, about this West Coast media bias.
Jimmy Tillene has won the manager of the month, hasn't he? Jimmy Tillene has won the manager of the month.
He certainly should have done, So
no, he did do it. He won it for the league games, because one of them. I don't mean to hurt your feelings here, Cammy, but another winner of it, and I'd never heard of this guy, was the Elgin City manager. He won the manager of the month in League 2. Yeah, but did you know this? Here's an interesting fact for you. Since coming into the leagues in 2000, Elgin City are the only Highland team who have never been promoted.
Yeah, I was aware of that one. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we've discussed that. They're pretty much the only club who stayed where they are. Now that Annan Athletic have been promoted a couple of seasons ago, I think they're the only club. It's the longest period of time in the one division. So there you go. But anyway, right, Dennis, in association with our sponsors at Kits Scotland on Instagram, obviously, thanks very much to Paul Eady for sponsoring the show. Let's have a very quick look, because obviously that's 50 minutes of rants in European football, but let's have a very quick look at the games at the weekend. In terms of, obviously, I think we'll really just look at the League Cup games and then a look ahead to the coming fixtures, and then give John a wee chance to talk about his beloved Airdrie.
Well, when you say the League Cup games, I assume you're talking about the 2 games we've just covered.
That's pretty much. We didn't really discuss the Rangers Motherwell game, as I say. No. We obviously says Celtic did very, very well, giving Aberdeen an absolute hiding. But as I say, Rangers struggled and scraped through with a 2-1 victory over Motherwell to set up another Old Firm final, Dennis.
Well, at half time there was tons of boos. And it's something that seems to be familiar.
And that was only in the Rangers dressing room.
Yeah, that's probably it. But if you look at it, Andy Halliday scores a goal, takes it well. What the defender was doing, I don't know. I mean, seriously, that's no senior football that boy was playing that day. Honestly, he runs away for the ball coming in. You need to look at that goal and you'll know exactly what I'm saying. The full-back, instead of going to attack the ball, turns away from the ball and goes the other way. And I'm thinking, why are you playing at this level?
Yeah.
Why are you playing at this level? And I think that is what I see in the Rangers team an awful lot. There's boys that are playing with Rangers Football Club that are not up to the mark. We keep going on about it, but there's a breaking point that's got to be there. The manager's now got another saving grace for another 2 or 3 weeks, but the quality is not improving to the entertainment level. Now, you might say, well, you're splitting hairs a wee bit here because they are winning, but there's a way, and you need to win games. There's no doubt about it. That's the first priority. But secondly, you've really got to look as if you know what you're doing. And they still are at 6s and 7s.
Yeah.
And that was against Motherwell we're talking about. During the week, European opposition, I just don't think they could figure them out. So Rangers weren't too bad. But other than the fact that they should have been out of sight by 4-1 at half-time.
Yeah.
So, as I said earlier, the deflection with Dessers scoring just wasn't for me.
Yeah.
Just wasn't for me.
But it is what it is. Rangers are through to another final. Celtic are through to another final. They'll face each other in a month or so's time, and then we'll obviously again probably give plaudits to Celtic, because I'd be very, very surprised if Rangers can stop that Celtic machine. But looking ahead then, Dennis, this weekend,
I'll just contradict myself there. It wasn't Dessers, now that I recall it. It was Barami that scored the deflected ball off it. Dessers took his goal well in that game. The problem I've got is I'm watching so much football, you have to sort of backtrack a wee bit. Was that right? So I'm now correcting myself. The deflection off the defender was Barami, and I think that was
into the ground and over him
or something. Yeah.
See, when you're only watching one game a week, Dennis, it's great. You know what I mean? That's the good thing. That's the good thing about that flag behind me. You're only watching that one game every Sunday.
Right.
Or anyway, in fact, this week is Sunday, Thursday, but never mind.
Right. Are you looking for the fixtures for tomorrow then, rather than the results last week?
Let's get through the fixtures. I think the games last weekend are a long time ago, so let's look at the fixtures.
Dundee United have Ross County. Hibs are playing St Mirren, Motherwell, St Johnstone, Aberdeen, Dundee. That's the Saturday fixtures. It's 5:30 for the Aberdeen Dundee game. And Sunday has got Kilmarnock against Celtic. Rangers are playing Hearts. And it's 3 o'clock for the Kilmarnock game and 5 o'clock for the Rangers game.
Yeah.
And the game that stands out, without a doubt, is a Sunday match at 5 o'clock with Rangers playing Hearts.
Yeah.
That is massive. A massive, massive game, because I've got a feeling Rangers still can turn the corner and turn it on, but they need to do it sooner rather than later. And then I look at Hearts' injection that they've got with the new guy coming in is great. And with the first half performance they had last night, well, you've got two teams that can't hit the back of the net, as John's rightly said, with Hearts, with Shanklin, and Rangers the same. So they'll be well matched. And I think that could be a really cracking game, as was the draw, the first game of the season at Tynecastle with Hearts and Rangers.
Yeah, we're back to the opening fixtures of the season, John. And as Dennis was saying, Rangers and Hearts, a reversal obviously of the Hearts-Rangers game, which finished nothing each, but Rangers at home to Hearts, both sides probably needing to get a result from that game.
Absolutely, because I mean the gap started at 3, then it became 6, then it became 9. And before you know it, Rangers could be so far out of sight. I think the top 3 will be the top 3 for the rest of the season. But I do feel that although they're doing well in Europe, Rangers' performances more than anything seem to be the judgment on which they're being based. But the Rangers, it's a melting pot at Rangers. I really don't know where they go, because, as Dennis says, the quality of player isn't there. But they had the Belgian manager Clement had to downgrade, etc. And he was told that by, I presume, the chairman who put in 20 million, who is off ill or whatever. And the thing is, if you're downgrading and having to cut your numbers. Because I remember the I can't remember the chairman's name, but he said that Rangers'
King.
wage bill was greater than Celtic's at one point in time.
I can quite believe that. Certainly, I think they're.
So therefore, but and that as involved in the business that I was involved in, the recurring losses are just unbelievable. Especially in a year when they have a record-breaking level of income. So what do you do? I think where the Rangers fans are right to be angry is the fact that Tillene has come in and coached players a lot better, whereas Clement hasn't shown, at least not in the Scottish front, a coaching capability.
100%.
And the way everyone calls it, they don't have a style. This seems to be the buzzword these days. I can't see a style, the way they play, and that's very true. But
you know what you call that? The ability to pass a ball. That's style. The Rangers can't get for their 18-yard box to the other 18-yard box without making a mistake. There are massive errors throughout that team, and the manager, as I say, isn't able to see it right in front of him. And I can sympathise to a degree because he has inherited a load of poor players that shouldn't be Ibrox, right? But he's also guilty of bringing some of these players in himself. Indeed. I don't see any player, and I've repeated this before, that would even get near the Celtic team. And that's talking about having Ralston in that team and maybe the other fullback, Taylor. So I look at that and I say to myself, Rangers don't have anything there that inspires me to say they will take you to the next level. And that's what's needed at Rangers at this moment in time. Somebody that can take you to the next level. Now, here's a big test for Sunday's game. The big test for Sunday's game is who can find the net the most. And that is where Shanklin's got to stand up and be counted, and Dessers. And I think if both of them could actually start to produce goals, the rest of the team might play an awful lot better. We might see players that I've written off that could maybe come up and say, by the way, what happens with teams, and I'm ranting here a wee bit, if you're going forward and you're not comfortable that it's either going to end up in the back of the net or the ball's not going to come back on top of you before you get to the last third, you don't squeeze up. You don't squeeze up because there's a fear factor in your mind that you can't be comfortable or confident that ball's not going to come straight over your head because the people in the midfield trying to find the forwards are getting cut out, and therefore you can't take the game high up the park. And that's what happens when teams are not finishing off. In other words, if your Rangers forward line, without picking out the same guy all the time, are scoring goals, you will press. If he's missing chances, what's happening is the ball's shooting straight back up the park. And therefore you lack confidence. And what I'm saying is, if Rangers or Hearts could start to score more goals, you find the press would be an awful lot better and they would be more comfortable and confident in it. And that's what I think the two teams in particular are missing.
I think there's a difference between Rangers in Europe and Rangers in Scotland because of the fact that Rangers in Europe, teams open up against them. Yes. They've got to break the doors open against the teams in Scotland. People can come and play in the counter against Rangers, and that's what Motherwell did. You look at the numbers, Rangers always tended to have greater numbers of shots on target or whatever, or not on target, but just shots in the game, and that's where they have a problem. And more often than not, they're conceding, so they always need to score 2 goals to win a game at home in Scotland.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, and that is always a problem you're going to have. That it's two different ways to approach a match. But I do think the manager, if he's going to turn the corner, he needs to start on Sunday, because I think there's been an element here. We're thinking, you're out of jail, you've had good results in Europe, and you've got to applaud him for that. But the league is where the bread and butter is with most of the Rangers players, because after January 23rd, I think it's the day that they play Man United. That might be their last game. If you're not on the shirt tails of Celtic, you're going to get bombarded big time.
Yeah.
And by that time, Celtic could be well out of sight, so could Aberdeen. That it'll just be a lost cause after the January situation. So, I think they've got to have a good look at themselves after this game and see where they're going.
Yep, 100%. Anyway, into the Championship, Dennis.
Yeah, Championship for... There's a game on tonight. Morton and Ayr United, only 10 minutes started. It's nothing each. With Morton and Ayr United, they seem to have slipped a wee bit.
Yeah.
For tomorrow's games, we have Falkirk are playing Airdrie, Hamilton, Livingston, Partick Thistle, Raith Rovers, and Queen's Park have Dunfermline Athletic. Well, that's top versus bottom. So, Airdrie just seem to continue in that vein where they don't seem to be able to pick up a result at all.
No.
Beating
Coming through for that game, John.
I'll be going through, yeah. The difficulty is quite simply, as a manager, you can either have reasons for the performance or you can have excuses. I think the reasons for the decline in Airdrie's results are we lost how many players to the Premier League. Josh Ray went to St Johnstone. One went up to Ross County, the wee midfielder. Another guy, Callum Gallagher, got a 2-year deal at Arbroath, and he was a top scorer. Callum Fordyce left us and went away to Raith Rovers. All these players were Gabby McGill. Was another who left us because he wanted to go down to England. Todorov, who was a top scorer, was disappointed that he never even got a minute in the 8-0 win at the start of the season and asked for a move. So all of a sudden, the players who played to the performances of the way that Rees likes to line up were gone. And in addition to that, we have had the major injuries. That's the reasons behind it. The excuses which aren't acceptable in my opinion, as you should still be able to at least put up a fight. Now, last week against Hamilton, I was down in London. Thankfully, I missed it. But 4-0 against Hamilton, who we thought would be one of the relegation contenders, along with us, by the way, and they still may be, but they're many points ahead of us. And now, I've always said, when I used to write Airdrie's programme, I said that the goal has to be to make sure you don't get relegated is a minimum of 10 points per quarter playing each team, so that you've got 40 points, and you'd be in that. If you wanted to get promoted, you would need to be up to about 15 to 20 points a quarter.
Yep.
Now, we are nowhere near that. We are 5 points from our first quarter and none from quarter 2 after 4 games. So relegation looms. And my only hope is that for the first time ever, I think League One is not the greatest it's ever been. So if you gave me a playoff right now, I would take it, because it'd be our only chance of staying up.
Yeah, definitely.
You look at your 3 fixtures coming up. Obviously, Top Guns tomorrow with Falkirk.
Yeah.
And I look at points and I say to myself, well, that'll be a tough one. Then you look at second bottom and bottom. Dunfermline away from home. So Dunfermline are fighting for their lives as well. There's only 4 points between you. And then you look at it, and I think the game after that is Livingston. So that's the 3 games you've got left in the month of November. Now, a lot could have happened in that time. If you can actually get a result against Dunfermline, that would make some inroads right away. The other 2 games would possibly take care of themselves. But if you look at Falkirk sitting away clear, then Livingston right behind them, you've got 2 of them in the next 3 games.
Well, Dunfermline beat Livingston, so we had a close game with them, and they scored the winner in stoppage time up there. I don't fancy Livingston for promotion. I think Falkirk and John McGlynn is another manager of the month, deservedly so. And they're going to scoosh this league. I never thought I would see it, but we did see it when Livingston, when Livingston got relegated away down, they did the 3 leagues in a row. I think Falkirk are going to do 2 leagues in a row, because the playoffs, as far as I'm concerned, whoever finishes second, third and fourth, it won't matter, because the dice is loaded for the Premier League side to stay up.
I agree with you, John. I agree with you. That doesn't. You're spot on with that. But that's probably a debate for about the last 3-4 games for the end of the season when teams are up against it. But but Airdrie's battling for their life just now, and I think
they are.
Forget maybe about tomorrow. Good performance and get something out of the Dunfermline game will give you a little glimmer of hope somewhere along the line.
Needing something to give us a boost, that's for sure.
Rhys McCabe's future, John?
I don't see... The fact is that Airdrie were 9 seasons and stuck in League One, and he comes along and as a player and captain took us... We reached the playoffs, we missed out. Ian Murray bolted up to Wraith Rovers, and then he took over. At that point in time, he was having a great working relationship with his cousin, Callum Fordyce, and we had 2 great seasons. And I think he's still enough in the bank as far as I'm concerned, because I'm long in the tooth for how long do you give the credit. But even if we were to be relegated, I still think that he would keep the job because of the number of players missing.
Yeah, well, you stated that earlier, and that does bring it home a wee bit, that if the supporters are no get blinkers on, then they can understand there's more to it than just every Saturday we go out and losing goals. There's always maybe a reason the way we're trying to nitpick Rangers, and it's the same thing. You've got that.
It's a greater pressure, though, the higher you are in the expectations.
Of course.
But Airdrie haven't come back as the team they once were.
No, not yet.
And it's not just happening at Airdrie. When a club goes down a certain pathway, it's hard to get things back.
Yep.
I mean, watch where Inverness, Cali Thistle go from here. Sometimes when you're on the slide and things are going against you, the world changes for you.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Well, it's on the subject Inverness, Cali Thistle. Dennis, what about League 1 and League 2? We'll quickly round up.
Annan are playing Stenhousemuir. This is tomorrow. Cove Rangers, Inverness. Kilty are playing Dumbarton. Montrose, Arbroath, and Queen of the South are playing Alloa. Cove Rangers obviously are going great guns. We did speak to Ian Harrison about a month ago, and they were bottom of the league. Ian will come back in a couple of weeks again, because we said we got them back on again when they went for the bottom of the league to top, which they've done for the last couple of weeks.
They've done so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a great result last week against Dumbarton, 3-0. That I know Dumbarton's sitting away down second bottom of the league, but it's still a great result going to Dumbarton.
Definitely.
And then you look at second place as well. Second place going great guns. Alloa beating Annan Athletic 5-0. They're big scores in that division,
Yeah.
Need to get Ian Anderson on, Dennis.
Yeah.
Bill Anderson, even. Bill Anderson.
Oh, aye, of course we.
Talk about Alloa.
Yeah.
Finally into League 2.
Into League 2, you have your results for last week that would be one to just pick out. It's Clyde 2-1 Riggrose 2, which gives you that point that you were looking at potentially maybe trying to start to get something with a new manager. You're sitting there though, Cammy. You're now level 8, 9 and 10 positions in the league. Have all got 9 points now. So believe it or not, that one little point that you've picked up has done well. But
should have been 3.
Team that's destined for draws for the rest of the season. And it'll be interesting to see when you've got Edinburgh City tomorrow.
Yeah, it should have been 3. In all honesty, probably Clyde's best performance of the season in the league last week, against 10 men for the the last half hour or so, where the goalkeeper gets sent off for a horror challenge on Jordan Allen, a man you'll obviously know well, John, or a player you'll know well.
Yeah.
Horrific challenge, but Jordan started scoring goals, scored the resultant penalty last week as well. Sorry, didn't score the resultant penalty. I wasn't fit to hit it, but did score again last week. But definitely Clyde's best performance. Moved the ball about beautifully, and you can actually see some of the differences that the new manager's been making in terms of, I think there's actually been some coaching going on as well, so they really did move the ball about well. Set plays they've obviously been working on as well. So I think, in all honesty, coming away from that game, despite the fact that Clyde didn't get the victory that their play did merit and did deserve, for the first time in quite a long time, Dennis, I've come away from the game quite enthused and looking forward to the game tomorrow. But nobody can get a hold of Edinburgh City to find out where my press pass is, so I might actually have to pay in the gate tomorrow.
Well,
Can I ask
if I decide I go to that shithole of a stadium.
Oh, it's murder. Can I ask a question about
Of course you can,
Clyde? What's happening about your stadium?
No idea. The chairman Alan Maitland was moved aside last week, so he's no longer in charge. I think we're back to the guys who were in charge prior to Alan coming into the club.
Taylor.
I think that's a backward step. John Taylor's back there. John Taylor's still the secretary. I don't know who's now the chairman, but as I say, you get guys on board like Gordon Thompson, John Alexander. John's a good guy, certainly, but I think Alan Maitland, I'm very, very disappointed Alan stepped aside, and be interested to see the communication now coming from the top back to the fans again. But as I say, I think that's a backwards move in terms of for what it'll mean for the club. But I've no idea what's happening with the stadium. It's been very, very quiet on that front in recent weeks and recent months.
Yeah.
But no,
I worry about all the teams that
teams in Lanarkshire
I've grown up with, because so many teams are falling down this. We asked for a pyramid approach, but East Stirling away and Cowdenbeath up, not away, but I mean Cowdenbeath, my own beloved Albion Rovers away. They're just I don't know what's happening.
No.
I worry about any other clubs. Now Clyde's a major winner, Scottish Cup winners.
Yeah,
John, I agree with you there, and I've always said that if you're coming into the big boys leagues, you've got to bring something with you. And I can't see, and although they've done exceptionally well, I can't see what the likes of Edinburgh City are going to bring to it. Bonnyrigg Rose, maybe. It's just dipping my toe in the water with these teams. And even if you go up the division, you look at Kelty. And I say to myself, they're not adding any more than the teams you've just mentioned there that have gone to the Lowland League. So
I disagree with that. As I say, you're looking at Kelty Hearts and with a shout of promotion to the Championship. You're looking at Cove Rangers and with a shout at the Championships. I think Dennis Day clubs are bringing something to.
Well, I was just going to finish on that. If they continue in the vein they are, it will mean then that they are going to add something to it, and that's what they're doing. Because if you remember way back years ago when Annan Athletic come in, I said, yeah, that's great, and this is before the pyramid. I said, they've got elected into the league. Let's hope they bring something. It took them a long while to be in the position that they were at the bottom division. But yeah, there is a worry, as John says, that these teams that were struggling to begin with big supports like Albion Rovers or East Stirling, Cowdenbeath, it's sad to see them going there, because they were self-sufficient for a massive amount of years. And I can't imagine even the support now will be the same as it was when they were playing in Division 3.
No. I agree with you, Dennis. I would like to see a Scottish team equivalent to Wrexham coming through.
All right,
and bought over by Hollywood.
You need a film star to do that. But just pick up on the fixtures for tomorrow, because I didn't actually give you them other than Bonnyrigg Rose were playing Elgin City, East Fife Stranraer, and the one I mentioned was Edinburgh City playing Clyde. Forfar Athletic have Spartans, and Stirling Albion are playing Peterhead. East Fife certainly still doing well at the top, along with Elgin City, both in 23 points. And Forfar, in fact, Stranraer, Forfar and Clyde all have 9 points at the bottom of the league.
At the foot of the table,
No massive leap you would need there to get up to mid-table, though. The Bonnyrigg Rose are sitting in 14 points. It's no much to actually achieve in the next coming weeks.
No. As I said, I think definitely a lot of optimism coming away from that game last week. So we shall see if that continues tomorrow with Darren Young in charge for obviously second league game. But I think that's about us for tonight, Dennis.
Other than the fixtures you've got for Scotland, you've got
crikey,
Scotland.
Aye, go and
next
mention
Friday,
them.
Scotland have Croatia, 7:45 kickoff, and then Monday on the 18th, Poland are playing Scotland with a 7:45 kickoff.
Yeah, we'll need to make sure we finish the podcast early next Friday just to give you the opportunity to go and watch that game then, eh?
Aye, that's a good shout, aye.
Anyway, guys, thanks very much. This has been, as always, on a Friday night, the Friday Night Football Pitch. What I would ask is if you like, subscribe, comment, share, talk to your pals, get your budget to subscribe. You know what I mean? I'm sure your granny there with a computer can subscribe as well. The more subscriptions we get, the better for the show. You know, gives us a better opportunity for reaching guys and reaching out. So please go ahead, like, subscribe on YouTube. You know where we are. And as always, it's always happening on the pitch. Thanks very much to John. Thanks very much to Dennis. We'll be here next week at 7 o'clock, even though there's a Scotland game. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.